Hey everyone, so today's video is a beginner video for stick welders. People that's just starting into welding, getting a stick welder, that's usually where you start. You can buy them super cheap, yard sales, online. Very versatile machine. I love a stick welder. I stick weld all the time. So what I'm gonna start with, whatever stick welder you get, if you can get a AC DC stick welder, get it. The DCs it's a more versatile machine, but if you can't, then that's fine. So for rod selection, one thing that your rod selection can make you or break you whenever you're trying to learn to stick weld. So I always recommend someone gets a 70-14 stick rod to start with. I recommend whenever you get your welder, go to the store, get you some 70-14s, get online, order some in 1/8 inch, 3/32, 5/64, and 1/16. The reason being, the difference in your thickness of material that you're going to weld on will determine your thickness diameter of your rod. So with those selection rods I just named off, you can weld anything at home, on the farm, wherever, from quarter inch plate steel all the way down to your mower deck. The thinner the material, you'll drop down thinner rods and lower amperage. So with the 70-14, that being said, the way I like to run these, I like to run them on the higher end of the spec. This is a 1/8 70-14. It's a Hobart 1/8 70-14. It's rated for 120 to 140 amps. Right now we're running on 135 amps. That seems to do pretty good on this thickness of metal here. It's maybe eighth inch thick metal. So the reason I like to do that is as you're welding with these, they run really good if you keep a tight arc length. And that's for the most part, that's all stick rods. You don't want to be long arcing your stick rod. So you want to keep a good tight, by tight I mean a close arc. So you want to be down here, and as you travel with these 70-14s, you can run them on the higher end of the amp rating so that they don't stick and the arc go out. And you can almost feel that flux on the back side of this rod just lightly scraping your material. If you run them like that, that's where you know you're in the money spot. Another reason I like these here are a good drag rod. They don't have to be manipulated. You don't have to do the whole half C or the J motion or some rods you have to run them and do a whip and pause where you'll come forward and go back, come forward and go back. You don't have to do none of that with 70-14. So they're a great beginner rod. You just strike off on your arc, hold a little bit of angle in the direction you're going. So if I was going this way across the welding, I'd lean my angle a little bit, get my arc length good and tight where I could almost feel that scrubbing, and then I'd come across just welding. So now to run, and that's another thing. So if the material you're running, to keep an arc length that's hot enough to weld like this, if it's too hot for your material, it's trying to burn through, then that's okay. Drop down to a smaller rod and set it on the higher end of the max, and you should be able to maintain a good arc length and roll on with business. That's why it's a great idea to have multiple diameters of the rods. So with all that said, another reason I recommend these, a lot of people say, 70-18 or this or that. There's no argument. A 70-18 is a great rod. It's world renowned, used for all kinds of applications all over the world. Thing I don't like about them, and I do not recommend them to DIYers or people just starting out, to properly store a 70-18, they're supposed to be stored in a rod oven because they are a low hydrogen rod and they draw moisture out of the air. And that'll cause things like porosity, weld failures, things like that if they're not stored properly. So for someone just beginning, 70-14s, the flux on them is a different kind of flux. It's iron powder, I'm pretty sure. Don't quote me on that, I have to look it up. But I'm pretty sure it's an iron powder flux, a couple other things. But anyway, the moral of it is, it does not require being stored in a rod oven. So you can just store this on your workbench, beside your welder, and not have to worry about anything. Another reason I like these is the restart. So if you weld and you have to stop and then you restart, these strike an arc and restart a lot better than a 70-18. A 70-18 can be a little more complex to just get the arc started back, and it makes it frustrating for new people trying to learn. So do yourself a favor, grab you some 70-14s to try, to practice. Once you get them down good, then do some research. You can, change your welds around or your rods around and get different things. So here we go. I'm gonna get the camera reset up, doing this by myself off of a $10 phone holder here. Like I said, I'm not a professional YouTuber. I'm just a guy that likes to weld and is creating a YouTube channel with his 13-year-old son. If you subscribe to our channel and watch some of our videos, you'll see me teaching my 13-year-old son